I can see that people have started to join. Just wait a couple of minutes. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all well and have had a great and relaxing weekend. My name is Hiba Abbasi, and on behalf of the University of Manchester Middle East Center, I would like to welcome you to a new session and a new topic, which we have put together today in collaboration with GSMA UAE and with our guest speakers from Etisalat and DO. The topic for today's session is mobile broadband, 4G and 5G, and its role as a pillar for UAE's social and economic development. Our guest speakers today are Saleem AlBlooshi, Chief Technology Officer from DO, Hani Yassin, Group Senior Director, Technology Strategy at Etisalat, and Jawad Abbasi, Head of MENA, GSMA. Saleem, Hani, and Jawad, thank you so much for joining us today, and we are very delighted to have you with us. We will start the session with an introduction from Jawad Abbasi, GSMA, and now I'll pass it on to you, Jawad, to welcome the speakers and introduce ourselves, and I'll share the screen.
Thank you very much, Shiva. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank, of course, Engineer Saleem and Engineer Hani for joining us to share their wide experience, especially that the United Arab Emirates has a pioneering role and pioneering status, not just in the Arab world, but across globally when it comes to adopting new technologies. For example, in addition to being a pioneer in 5G in the world, the UAE is renowned for its massively advanced fiber optics penetration, where well over 90% of households are passed by fiber optic, and broadband internet is alive and well and thriving in the country. Again, thank you, Hiba. Hiba and I share the same family name. We're not related, but we share the same family name, and she spells it the same way I spell it too, the right way. Double S and double B. So, allow me to start first. I'm speaking to you from Jordan, Fhis, in the northwest of Amman. We're 1 hour behind Dubai. I'm stuck in Jordan because the airport has been closed since March 17th. I'm supposedly based in Dubai, but I've been in Jordan since February 7th. So allow me to start with some slides from the GSMA to explain the 5G era and the 5G technology. Next slides, please, Hiba. Just a small background on what the GSMA does. We are the industry association that represents the interests of all the mobile operators globally. We have 15 offices worldwide. Our members include 750 mobile operator groups, in addition to over 350 ecosystem partners, associate members, and so on. And the total mobile connections globally are well over 8.7 billion people, and the work that the GSMA does ranges from advocacy, from spectrum work, taxation. We also have a major mobile for development program that looks at how the mobile ecosystem helps in advancing the socioeconomic state across the world. We're very committed to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and we are present in every single one of them to advance them as we move forward. Next slide, please. So this is a simple slide that looks at how the cellular technology has advanced. We all started with the analog, of course. Now, I think nobody remembers the analog cellular service, but the first digital cellular service was the second generation, the 2G, and it was mainly calls and texts. And then we had some mobile data on GPRS, but nothing fancy. The third generation came with HSPA and HSPA Plus, and that was the true start of mobile data. 4G was the first universally harmonized mobile broadband technology, and it's one of the most successful, of course, and it's the true mobile broadband, and that allowed a lot of services and applications. And finally, 5G, it differs mainly from the 4G in that it is much higher speeds, a lot less latency, and of course the ability to split the network, to allow different components of the network to be tailored for the special uses of that network. Network slicing, basically, that's the technical term for it. To deliver, yeah, next slide, please. To deliver 5G, mobile operators need spectrum, as they needed spectrum for 3G, 4G, and 2G. And just a reminder that the spectrum for 5G is the same spectrum that you already have in your 4G and your 3G networks, as well as your Wi-Fi as well. So it's the same type of networks. For coverage, we need spectrum in the sub 1 gigahertz. For coverage and capacity, the great mix between 1 to 6 gigahertz, for example, in the C-band, that's where a lot of the new deployments of 5G were there. And then for low latency and high capacity, we need in the millimeter wave over 6 gigahertz. And as a golden rule, can we click the next slide, please? We just need yes. As a golden rule, we need around 80 to 100 megahertz per mobile network operator in the mid-range band, in the 1 to 6 gigahertz, and well over 1 gigahertz per mobile network operator in the millimeter wave. Next slide, please. So this looks at our GSMA intelligence projections for 5G adoption and 5G growth across the world. GSMA intelligence is part of the GSMA. It's a service that we offer to our stakeholders and our members, associate members, and network members. We have an expansive team of analysts across the world that monitor developments in the mobile industry and deliver concise analysis, relevant thought leadership, and projections. Our projections for 5G adoption, we expect 1.7 billion 5G connections in the world by 2025. The regions of North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific will contribute 90% of the total 5G mobile connections by 2025. In the Middle East and North Africa region, we expect 47 million 5G connections by 2025, simply because the pioneers that have launched 5G, which are quite a few, so we have 5 countries that have launched 5G already, but they tend to have of lower populations. So the very big countries such as Morocco, Algeria, and Egypt have not launched 5G yet, and that could explain why the total share of 5G connections of the total Middle East and North Africa subscriber base is only 6% by 2025, still substantial at 47 million people. Next slide, please. The 5G commercialization, as of quarter 1 2020, mobile 5G was commercially available from 50 operators in 26 countries, and also a fixed wireless service using 5G was available for 27 operators. Another 88 operators had announced plans to launch mobile 5G, and 12 operators had plans to launch 5G-based fixed wireless services. And the graph on the right-hand side show the number of operators, planned operator launches by region. Europe has 45, Asia Pacific has around 32, and MENA still has, in addition to the operators that have launched in 5 countries, around 2 or 3 have announced plans for future 5G commercialization. Next slide, please. This slide I like because especially on the right-hand side, the picture of the 2 cars, it explains the main difference between 5G and 4G technologies, the ultra low latency, which allows for innovation and new applications. For example, in a 4G network, that's in an ideal situation, a 4G network, for the signal for an autonomous driving car to apply its brakes, for the time that passes, the car will have traveled 4.6 feet to apply its brakes. compared to only 1 inch on a 5G network. So this is the effect of the much lower latency on 5G networks. You can eventually have, if a car needs almost 2 meters to apply its brakes, that's not very conducive and that's not very safe. However, with a 5G network, autonomous cars and self-driving cars will become a much closer reality, simply because of the low latency. The car can be controlled in a much easier fashion. Next slide, please. Some projections from the GSMA intelligence also on smart devices, smartphones and smart handhelds. We expect 700 million new subscribers by 2025 that basically use smartphones, whereby by 2025 smartphones and smart devices and smart handhelds will become almost 79%, almost 80% of the total subscriber bases. Half of the growth in smartphones will come from the Asia Pacific region, and of course we're expecting also 72 million subscriptions from the Middle East and North Africa region. Next slide, please. This is, I'm going to leave you with 2 final points. One, on the safety of 5G networks. Again, we underline that the radio signals used for 5G are similar to those used by current technologies and are covered by the same international safety guidelines that protect all members of the public and the environment. I give you some links at the GSMA website that looks at the safety of 5G mobile networks and also electromagnetic frequencies and health. So just let's leave it here for 5 seconds for people to eventually go to the website and check these very useful resources. Next slide, please. And definitely our mobile economy report that we produce every year, global mobile economy reports, as well as mobile economy reports per region, Europe, North America, South America, Middle East and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and so on. It explains the role of the mobile ecosystem, its contribution to the economy, to employment, to taxation and government revenues, and I invite you to download these reports as well. So these are my view setting of this seminar, of this webinar, sorry. And now I'd like to invite Engineer Saleem and Engineer Hani to share with us, since the United Arab Emirates has already launched 5G, what are the next steps of how will 5G help in unleashing innovation in different verticals in the United Arab Emirates economy, the plans of the 2 operators in the United Arab Emirates, Du and Etisalat, with their 5G networks and so on. And in the meantime, please, if you have any questions, you can write your questions in the questions tab, and hopefully we'll find time to answer as many questions as we can. So without further ado, thank you for your attention. Start sending the questions. We'll answer all questions afterwards. And I'd like now to invite Engineer Saleem for his remarks on how he sees the situation of 5G in the United Arab Emirates, how it will contribute to the economy and the society, and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jawad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So first of all, I would like to take the context from UAE perspective, that UAE is one of the largest country from mobile market penetration. We have more than 200% of mobile market penetration. So starting with that, with the high level of penetration and the regulation, which is driven by the regulatory, and the regulator, of course, is driven by the country vision. So we have clear country vision for driving smart initiatives countrywide. The regulator is controlling the spectrums and driving the market, telecom market, toward latest technologies. Being, of course, in 4G we are leading for some time. However, from 5G perspective as well, there was a significant push from the regulator to start 5G. And an example of this push, of course, they allocated the spectrum free of cost for the last 2 years now. And this is an important enabler for the operator to start rolling out 5G network. And the third important pillar, the investment, of course. The operators are investing in 5G network in May actually, in May 2019, we launched 5G commercially in the UAE. And since then, we accelerated the rollout of our 5G network. After the rollout, we started engaging with the industry, with all market industry, to ensure that they are aware of 5G capabilities. As Jawad highlighted, 5G is coming. It is an ecosystem. It is not only connectivity business, despite the three characteristics of connectivity, which are the speed, capacity, and latency. In addition to that, 5G is a service delivery platform. For the first time, from technology perspective, radio access network is having the northbound interface, where the interaction for the developers and the market where we can monetize. Prior to this, all the monetization capabilities were at the edge of the network from the perspective of mobile edge and even fixed edge. But 5G is opening the intelligence for the ecosystem at large to start innovating and opening the platform for further innovation from service delivery, specifically service delivery platform. Today, of course, the rollout of 5G is non-standalone from technology perspective. However, by end of 2021, 2022, the rollout of standalone capabilities where we can further monetize the 5G rollout. And the expectation from 5G perspective as well, we are going through 3 stages of 5G rollout. The operator's investment from connectivity is the pillar, is a start point, which most of the operator has started the rollout, especially in the UAE. We already started the journey. Second important pillar are the application that adds to the lifestyle of the community at large. The smart city capabilities, the AR capabilities, augmented reality, virtual reality capabilities, more streaming applications. We expect to see more streaming and higher definition streaming application, 8K and beyond as well, and more adaptability to the streaming use cases. So all these, this is the second stage. So first stage connectivity, second stage the use cases and the application that adds to the lifestyle. The third phase or third stage of 5G monetization will be the ecosystem at large. So ecosystem, I mean V2X capabilities, the controlling the cars from end-to-end perspective, the utility companies, they monetize the capabilities, cloud-based artificial intelligence capabilities. So all these capabilities that are ecosystem related will happen at the third stage of our 5G rollout. So these are the UAE today, from positioning of the country. UAE is positioned as a fertile land for monetization of 5G, and we are ready to start actually all the innovation related to drive the maximum value of 5G ecosystem. This is my introductory comments, Jawad.
Thank you very much, Engineer Saleem. Very useful. Hani, we move to you with the plans of Etisalat and how you see the 5G launch affecting the industry and different verticals and different sectors in the United Arab Emirates economy.
Thank you very much, Jawad, and thanks to the University of Manchester for this invitation. Very happy to be with you today. And thanks, Saleem, for this very comprehensive introduction about the history of 5G and all the work that we have done in the UAE to prepare the networks to 5G. So the collaboration with the government was very important to make sure that the planning was done right. We were members of the 5G planning committee of the UAE. We have been talking about spectrum in the UAE for 5G in the past 5 years. So all of this came together into fruition in the previous couple of years, so that we were able to launch 5G successfully. And this is also leveraging on our huge investment on LTE, because we've been investing very heavily in LTE for the past few years. And as Saleem has mentioned, now we are launching 5G in the non-standalone mode, which means that we are relying heavily on the LTE network for signaling, and we are not there yet to do 5G on the the standalone mode. So all of this work on LTE has benefited us today. And as Etisalat, we have more than 99% LTE coverage nationwide. We are one of the highest speed LTE networks in the world. The speed in the UAE is hovering around 100 megabits per second on average. So one of the highest speed in the world. So all of these innovation that we have done in the past on 3G and 4G required us to start investing heavily in 5G. So I'll mention a few of the 5G business case enablers. So just that we put things in the context. So I don't repeat a lot of what Saleem has already mentioned. And those are my personal opinion as business case enablers from technology perspective. 5G technology, and this is just to understand how this ecosystem that everybody is talking about in 5G is gonna monetize and implement 5G. The first important feature, from my opinion, on 5G is the control user plane decoupling. So this feature started in LTE, but now it's picked up momentum and more details in 5G. And the idea is that you are splitting the control plane from the user plane by splitting the control signal from the user data. You'll be able to separate and treat those two streams, the data streams, the user data stream and the control stream separately, and therefore, that leads us to the next important feature, which is mobile edge computing. So now that you separated or decoupled the user plane from the control plane, it becomes easier to bring user data processing closer to the user. So this will benefit high throughput and low latency applications such as AR, VR, autonomous vehicles, video processing. So all of these features that are coming, with 5G, it comes as a package. We cannot say 5G is about one feature or the other feature. 5G as a system has to implement all of these features together so that we can get to the most benefit of the 5G system. And the third and last feature that I'm going to talk about, which is a system level feature, is network slicing. So now that you separated the control signals and the user data, and you brought the data processing closer to the user, so now you're generating a lot of data and processing. Now you have to give the verticals or your ecosystem partners a way to configure an end-to-end what we call a slice. A slice is just an end-to-end configuration, network configuration that provides two important features to the users, and in this case, the verticals, our partners. One is that you give them an end-to-end quality of service based on certain service level agreements, so guaranteed end-to-end quality of service. Second, and very important to those verticals, is isolation between different services and also different users or customers. So because of privacy and security, the isolation between the different customers and services is very important for the collaboration with between the ecosystem partners, especially between us as mobile network operators and the verticals. So these are, in my opinion, the most important features to enable the 5G, the futuristic 5G use cases. So in terms of the 5G use case commercialization that we are working on from a Etisalat perspective, we separated those use cases into three categories: short-term, mid-term, and long-term. The short-term use cases, these are the use cases we're going to be delivering commercially within 2 years. The focus, of course, is going to be on enhanced mobile broadband in the non-standalone mode, still leveraging heavily on our LTE network. And these use cases, for example, fixed wireless access for new development where fiber is not available. As Jawad mentioned earlier, the UAE is one of the most highly fiberized country in the world. Fiber to the home reach around more than 95%. But there's still a lot of new areas that are coming up, new development areas, and where fiber is not available. So where you're going to be using 5G and fixed wireless access to address the needs in these areas. We're also looking at hyperconnectivity for venues and special events. For example, Dubai Expo 2020. We're looking at a lot of those use cases that we're going to implement in Expo 2020. Then in the midterm, and this is within 3 to 5 years, we're going to focus on the high throughput and low latency applications in the standalone mode. So once 5G, the new 5G core is ready and integrated with our network, we can move into the standalone mode, which is 5G, without relying on LTE. Then we can start talking about industry applications such as industrial applications such as ports operations. We're in talks we're talking to some port authorities in Dubai, for example, and in the UAE for applications such as operating cranes, loading vehicles, all wirelessly using 5G. We're also looking at immersive VR experiences for gaming, telemedicine, training, operation support, etc. So those are the midterm applications we're looking at. And the long term, which is 5 to 10 years, then those are the mission critical services, such as autonomous vehicles, remote surgery. These are the ones that we will have to have a little bit more experience in operating the network in the standalone mode, understanding the latency requirements much better before we can start delivering on a commercial basis these mission critical services. So during all of these discussions that we're having in terms of the use cases, we're taking a phased approach to maximize our ROI, return on investment, and gain confidence in technology maturity. So we're very proud that with what we have accomplished so far in 5G planning and deployment, and we're looking forward to enhancing our 5G network capabilities to meet challenging demands from our customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We have one question. It's a simple question. COVID-19 by the telcos. And allow me to just remind the audience of the last slide we brought. The radio signals used for 5G are exactly the same as the one used for 4G and 3G and your Wi-Fi in your house. And you have to also remember one thing. New Zealand has 5G and it's almost COVID-19 free now. And in the meantime, we have COVID-19 infections in countries that have not launched 5G. So it is social media conspiracy theory that is not based in science, unfortunately, and that's why I invite everybody to check the resources on EMF and safety and the strict protocols of limits on 5G and cellular technologies at large at the gsma.com website. A question for Hani and for Saleem. Security concerns. Now, will 5G alleviate a lot of the security concerns because of network slicing and so on?
So from a security perspective, as we explained and Hani explained the details of use cases, we will have more use cases, more dependency on the 5G networks, and the capabilities, the size of the pipe and the connectivity will be much bigger, much wider than before. And of course, as we understand that the mindset of criminals and or whomever want to compromise from security, they try to identify any new variable, and based on that they try to use those variables if it is not properly secured and controlled. And the advantage again of 5G, it is opening definitely new arena, new area of innovation development, and part of that 5G from security perspective is an integrated part. So when the development of 5G, being the handset or the end devices or the core, from standard definition in the protocol, security is an important pillar from the confidentiality of the customer information, from the integrity of the information, and from end-to-end availability of this infrastructure is addressed as an integrated part of 5G rollout. By now also the operators in general, we have the required experience to control. And as we show, we highlight, this risk is always there. The criminal mindset, they try to be ahead of the governance and the control mindset. But again, we are ensuring that during the rollout, the 5G is secured from the implementation of and the rollout of 5G. The northbound interface, or whatever the SDP and the separation of control plane and user plane is an important factor as well, where the control plane is fully integrated in the network, in the cloud of the operators, while the user plane, the one which will go through the end user devices, which will add as well security elements and improve the security from end-to-end perspective. From security perspective, the controls are being put in mind, especially the more and more rollout of critical applications. As Hani highlighted, the healthcare industry, which will be connected as an ecosystem. The banking industry will be connected as an ecosystem, and the reliance more and more on telecom operators. And the pandemic situation, despite the unfortunate situation from end-to-end perspective, but the telecom industry at large, being, again, I'm referring to telecom as an industry at large, from the governance bodies being ITU, the GSMA, 3GPP, or all other technical standard bodies for the telecom industry, or the regulators or the operators, has proven their capabilities. Actually, the pandemic happens, people move to their home, working from home, studying from home, and alhamdulillah, the network from end to end managed to cope with this, with the expectation of the customer, despite the change in demographic. People move from hotspots to their houses, move from their offices to their houses, and doing their business. However, again, from scalability as engineering fact, we were able to scale the network very fast. From connectivity to the content, we were able to connect content very fast, and the use cases, all the education use cases, enabling the customers. So all this being done, and security was integrated in those elements. Again, we should not underestimate the importance of security. Of course, all of us, we need to put our brains together and align the workforce, our efforts and forces toward minimizing the impact of security. But this is my general comments.
Thank you very much. We have a simple question. Before you answer that last question, we have a simple question. Is the UAE still offering 2G?
Yes. So today, allow me, Hani, to answer. Yes, the UAE, we have 2G, 3G, 4G at this till date, but there are plans to switch off 2G network by end of 2021. But of course, we have another variable. Expo was delayed, so that as well, the expected people visiting the country will have an impact on our strategic decisions for 2G specifically.
Very good. Okay, back to you, Hani, for the answer to the first question.
Yeah, so regarding security, Jawad, there is no intrinsic security risk, for 5G that is different than previous technologies. Actually, it's on the contrary. When the standardization bodies were looking at 5G, they tried to plug any security holes that appeared in previous technologies. For example, if you compare 4G to 5G, there were certain enhancements of 5G over 4G in terms of security. For example, enhanced user authentication, because 4G used to, or it was a practice to broadcast user ID over the air, which poses security and privacy risk. So 5G now, has very enhanced user authentication, where both user ID and the location of the user are encrypted. There is a unified authentication framework that is access agnostic for 5G, where you can have different access technologies, whether it be Wi-Fi or 4G, using the same authentication techniques. Also, there is stronger data encryption. 5G is using 256-bit encryption versus 4G, which is using only 128-bit encryption. So all of these enhancements that happened, on 5G, is trying to kind of address this whole security issue. But no matter what we do, there is also the risk, and we have to be vigilant, because again, with all of these new services and cloudization that is happening in 5G and everywhere, you still have the IP network security, which is separate than the 5G network, right? So at the end, those packets that you generate from your 5G network or 4G network or 3G network, they're going to end up on the internet as an IP packet, and you're going to have to face the same IP security problem that all internet users are facing. In addition, one of the main features of 5G is enabling a massive number of devices. So now, in the future, when you have billions and billions of devices with varying capabilities or security capabilities, now you have to know how to manage those devices in terms of the security and authentication. Network slicing, because it will enable our partners, the verticals, to have their own basically slice of the network, and also to enable them to have certain applications of their own on top of what we're offering on our network. It will also benefit them by enabling them to offer their own or put their own security layers on top of what we're already implementing in 5G. So let's say there's a certain vertical in the medical field or oil and gas fields where they want to enhance the security of their data. They can add those layers on top of what our network is already doing in terms of their interfaces and the security interfaces between the different network elements.
Thank you very much. We have one very simple question. Will you share the PowerPoint presentations of the attendees? Yes, we will. And Hiba, if we can put the last slide, which has my email, so you can email the organizers or email me, and I'll happily share the slides we gave this today. Another question from Muhammad Ammar. Which sector do you foresee benefiting the most from the deployment of 5G? And I'll ask this question to both Hani and Saleem. Please, Hani, Saleem.
Yeah, so safety actually expected to be one of the early adopter. Safety from fire system and from monitoring, from city monitoring and other capabilities. So expected to be one of the early adopter of 5G technology, and followed then by streaming and content media providers. I have study from Analysis Mason that shows that the expected opportunity actually from business end to end for 5G for the coming revenue, the revenue from 5G for the coming 10 years is almost 60 million from specific sectors. That is our smart and safety of the cities, cross industry, utilities, media and entertainment, transportation, and healthcare. So those are expected to generate over coming 10 years almost 60 billion US dollar. And the operators' share of this is 40 to 45% of this are operators' market share, and then the remaining are other enablers of the ICT services. So it is significant. The opportunities is big from adaptability and implementation of 5G. And again, it is all about collaboration between the ecosystem. And the ecosystem at large, we have to work together, collaborate, and trust, of course, each other in order to move forward and monetize the 5G capabilities.
Very good. Thank you very much. Hani?
Yes, I agree with Saleem. I think safety and security are going to be, first adopters. Especially for some government applications. We partnered actually as Etisalat with Dubai Police recently to enable 5G enabled cameras, where you can also run some AI and facial recognition software, quickly on those cameras, so that you can give advice or you can give recommendation also to the police department, comparing these face recognition and AI with a database, for example, that they have for known elements, for example. So we think that with the augmentation of machine learning and AI also, and this big data that's being generated from the networks, government agencies will start using 5G earlier than maybe private entities, because they see this potential in terms of safety, security. Now with this pandemic situation as well, there's a lot of applications that can be done in terms of understanding the people's movement, for isolation and things like that. So I think just because of what's happening now, government agencies are gonna be the first adopters. Then after that, we're looking at oil and gas verticals. We think in the context of UAE and the GCC countries might be also very close followers.
Thank you very much. Another question from on the challenges for 5G deployment that both of you are expecting during the COVID-19 pandemic. Has the COVID-19 situation in the country affected the rollout plans and also regular maintenance and network supply issues?
Of course, the lockdown impacted the implementation, the rollout of 5G. But in the UAE, again, and from supply chain perspective, thanks to our partners, the ecosystem of the partner, we did not notice much of delay in the supply chain for the equipment. However, the rollout, because of lockdown and movement of the equipment within the country, it had contributed to some delay, but we are catching up in the rollout. The main challenges of 5G, again, and this is the advantage being an early adapter, that the modernization of network of course, 5G will require more power consumption. So we have to ensure to upgrade our sites with higher power requirements, the space required as well, and changing of the antennas, modernization of the antenna on top of the tower, the refitment of the towers, especially in the UAE, we have infrastructure sharing. So both operators, we are sharing good percentage of the site are shared. From the passive infrastructure perspective, the tower and these things, so it's required to do refitment of those towers. So all these things, and as well, another important pillar of 5G enablement is the fiber rollout and backhauling of our 5G sites. So all these things are required for 5G to monetize it to the maximum. And we have gone through the learning curve. So we have gone through the learning curve. We are doing the modernization. We are ahead of the game from modernization of the sites perspective. And the rollout of 5G is following the modernization. So a lot of work needs to be done in the 5G, specifically whoever would like to deploy and roll out 5G, you need to consider the modernization and the upgrade of the sites, existing sites.
Very good.
Yes, I totally agree with Saleem. Actually, he just mentioned some of the pains we're going through. I mean, believe it or not, the biggest barrier for 5G deployment is not really the technology itself, or the availability of the equipment, is really the site readiness because of the weight. Because in each site, on each tower, you have a certain weight limits, and because of the equipment that 5G brings, the new equipment, you cannot just go and install all of this equipment on towers that are not rated for such weight. And also power, because of the massive MIMO implementation that goes with 5G, it requires a lot of power. So again, dimensioning the power and dimensioning. So basically, most of the challenges we're having is civil works challenges more than the technology itself, believe it or not. And also, because of the COVID-19 situation, there was a shift of traffic from outdoor to the indoor, right? So what happened is that because of this increased traffic indoors, we had to go and upgrade a lot of our systems to cater for this traffic, whether it's international gateways or all of our fixed network, because a lot of people are spending a lot of time at home. And because, of course, that 5G devices are not very commonly available now. So we have a few 5G devices, but they're not as common as 4G. So that might have affected a little bit of the rollout of 5G, but not because of the technology or availability of the equipment, but because of other factors that Saleem has mentioned.
Thank you. Another question.
So just forget one point actually. One of the challenges of 5G as well, the handset availability. Sorry for that. It is very important. So 5G handset availability is another of course challenge in the market. So handset, we have very few handset that supports 5G, and this is one of the challenges that we are going through, adaptability of the end user, and expected to actually the adaptability to increase by end of the year, end of 2020 and beyond. So again, therefore we are accelerating the rollout of our 5G network. Sorry, Jawad, I missed this one.
No problem. Thank you very much. Another question. We have plenty of questions. I'm very happy. Quite a lot of engagement from our many attendees. How do the speakers see the ARPU, average revenue per user, development in the region with 5G commercialization in the mobile business segment? So basically the effect of 5G on average revenue per user, the monthly average revenue per user in your networks.
What we have noticed when customer moves from 3G to 4G, there was an increase in their behavior and in the traffic that they generate by almost just same user. He has a 3G handset. The moment he upgrades his handset to 4G, the 30% increase in the traffic. So 30% increase in the traffic that this customer was generating. So from technical perspective, we expect again for in 5G, if you are talking only broadband, it depends as well on the applications that are available. What happened in 3G specifically, the streaming with 4G, when the customer moved from 3G to 4G, his streaming experience become much better. So and the streaming providers start to push higher quality video to the customer. So therefore the traffic increase. At this stage, what we see again, 4G is more than enough for the traditional streaming over mobile network traffic. We are looking forward for more use cases. Again, the use cases are the killer application expected in 5G. At this stage, again, from traffic prediction, from traffic generation, we are seeing, we have very few customers that are connected to the network. The behavior, again, similar from 4G to 5G, there is an increase in the traffic in the range of 15 to 20% increase in the traffic. However, again, we expect again more to happen with the new applications and new use cases. The adaptability and customers will start consuming more traffic. Again, I'm talking from engineering perspective again, of course. From ARPU, I don't recall numbers from financial ARPU perspective.
Thank you. Hani.
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, you know, whenever you move from one generation technology to the other, the user behavior changes and they require more data. And because of the, you know, certain applications that are becoming more and more available, we're going to from, for example, on the video side, from HD to 4K to 8K, for example. You know, streaming. So of course, this you know, these applications or these modes of streaming will require more data. But on the business or enterprise side, the challenge here is how, you know, as operators we will deliver, you know, services beyond the connectivity, right? So this is kind of the biggest question we're trying to address right now. And the way we look at 5G is that, you know, the old basically debate about you know, connectivity being the dumb pipe is over now. There is no discussion about you know, there is no dumb pipe now. All connectivity is smart right now. 5G is a very smart platform. There is a lot of ecosystem players here, with the cloud player as well in delivering certain services to the enterprise customers, but also they rely on the mobile operators to deliver you know, these services, right? We talked about you know, having you know, the edge computing, having all of these data closer to the user. So if you think about it, once you move all of these data close to the user, that means you are on the mobile operator's network. You know, you're not in the cloud anymore. You have your own cloud, which is closer to you. If you think about Netflix, for example, you know, you cannot stream Netflix efficiently from the US to the UAE. You have to have Netflix cache closer to the consumer, which means that collaboration with Etisalat and in the UAE. So all of these you know, applications and services that are coming from the OTTs and the cloud players, they have to work, you know, closely with the operators to deliver them in a very efficient manner. Now the model, how we split, this this ecosystem or this value chain, that's where all the discussions that's happening, on the business side. So we'll leave it to the business guys to decide how we're gonna, cut the cake.
I guess it's easier to be on the technology side, and you just get the network ready, and it's up to the marketing team and the finance and business teams to worry about the monetization.
Absolutely.
We have only 10 minutes left, so we don't have a lot of space for many more questions. So I'll choose some. When do we expect to see the first 5G SIM cards in the United Arab Emirates market for the consumer space? So basically 5G handsets and 5G eSIMs and 5G SIM cards and so on.
So actually the UAE is there since May 2019. So today you can just have your 5G handset. The moment you have your 5G handset, so you can connect to the network with 5G. Of course, the areas where we have our 5G coverage, and but it is available since May 2019.
So I guess then the question could be rephrased to say what's the situation of 5G handsets for consumers in the United Arab Emirates?
So there are some operators who have launched, some handset providers. They launched 5G capabilities, Huawei, Samsung, ZTE, and some other, Oppo actually, some others has launched 5G capabilities, and it is available in the UAE. The handsets are available in the UAE. Of course, there are Apple. We are not clear when exactly they will be launching the 5G, and that will expect it to accelerate actually 5G adaptability, which is again maybe by end of the year. There are a lot of talks. We are not clear exactly when they will be launching.
Very good. Thank you very much. We have one more question on IoT. Basically, the question, I'll read it as it is. Technologies like OT expands 5G risks, and switching from 5G to 4 or 3G exposes networks to risks. How do UAE operators address this? I'll start with Hani and then Saleem. And I think we only have time for this final question. So go ahead, please, Hani. It's IoT in the context of 5G.
Yeah, I think we touched on this a little bit when we talked about security in general, because again, when you have this massive number of devices on your network, and those devices are machines basically, so they're susceptible to any virus attacks, and they're manufactured by different companies. You have no control over them, because the idea now for those devices, IoT devices, is that any vertical or any partner of ours, they can deploy them on the network, right? So this is the vision, that we're gonna get to it eventually. So we don't need to provision as network operators all of these millions and billions of devices, So there'll be some of our partners that will be provisioning those devices per the slices, the network slices that they're going to be operating on. Which again, of course, that will expose some security risks. However, we will try to work, very collaboratively with all the ecosystem partners who are, bringing those devices on our networks, and make sure that we have some kind of a standardization, security standardization, where we can do some certification or some kind of interoperability to make sure that all of these devices are are standards to some common standard basically, so that we don't have different devices doing different things in our network.
Very good. Perfect. We have 6 more minutes, so what I would like to do is maybe give each of our dear speakers, Hani and Saleem, some final remarks, and then I'll give it back to Hiba to give us our closing remarks from the host, our dear team at the University of Manchester. So Hani, your final comments and takeaway, briefly.
Yes, I think we're in very exciting times. Everybody's talking about Industry 4.0, and it is really Industry 4.0. Where all of the new applications blurring, the divide between the physical, between the physical and the virtual realm. So we're living in very exciting times these days, and we're really just scratching the surfaces of 5G. Nobody knows what the killer app of 5G is. I think there will be a lot of innovative people and very smart people taking this platform that we call 5G now and doing a lot of interesting things with it in the future. And as network operators, we're working on enabling that platform so that it will address all of these futuristic applications, with addressing all of these concerns that we heard today about security, about partnership with our verticals, about the ecosystem, about the handsets and devices on the network. So we are very excited about this, and we're just starting. So we're gonna continue doing what we're doing now, and hopefully we have more and more of these webinars and discussions about it.
Inshallah, perfect. Engineer Saleem.
So from my perspective, as I highlighted earlier, UAE is a fertile land to harvest the maximum benefits out of 5G, thanks to the ecosystem at large, from the government vision again, from the regulatory, from operators, and from the ecosystem in general. 5G is in the UAE is already implemented. It requires to move to the next level. It requires the collaboration between stakeholders within the country and trust. We are as good as again any other country during the early adaptability. Everybody trying to do everything. So there is uncertainty. There are a lot of uncertainties, but I think as things are evolving, it will come in perspective, and each will respect its domain, and building blocks will come together. And we are on the right track from monetization of 5G.
Thank you very much. So thank you all, and I'll leave it now to Hiba to give us our final remarks by again our.
I would like to listen to your final remarks, Jawad. Do you have any final remarks that you would like to add?
I just to note that mobile broadband is the foundation for the digital economy. It is the foundation for knowledge economy, and governments and operators need to maintain investments in it, and that's why we need to maintain with proper policy on spectrum and taxation the attractiveness of investing in mobile broadband networks, which are clearly the foundation for digital economy and knowledge-based economies.
Thank you. Thank you, Jawad.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you so much to all of you, our speakers. Thank you, Engineer Saleem AlBlooshi. Thank you also, Hani, Yassine, and Jawad, for a very knowledgeable and insightful session. We can see that we had so many questions, and maybe we weren't able to go over them all of them. So I know this is a very engaging session. But this session is recorded and will be shared with everyone tomorrow. So hopefully, if you go through it again, it can answer some of the questions that you've asked. The session will also be available on our website, which is the www.manchester.ac.ae. Go to the webinars section or to the events section, and you will be able to view a recording of this webinar and all previous webinars that we have held. And also, if you have any information that you would like to ask us, we'd be more than happy to share with you. Final thank you to our attendees who took the time to listen to us and to join the webinar today. And again, I would like to end this session by saying thank you to everyone, and I wish you all a great evening. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you all again in person, hopefully very soon. Thank you and good evening, everyone. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.